but we are ready to go. I'm joined with Steph, and we're going to break down just a couple of things happening in New York Knicks land today. Steph, what's going on with you today?
I'm good, Sim. I'm looking forward to the show. Looking forward to Grimes coming back, and looking forward to seeing the Knicks for the rest of the season, win or
Yeah,
lose.
yeah, win or lose. Let's start with the Knicks signing Feron Hunt. He's a
Mhm.
6'8", 195-pound forward. He's been playing in the G League for the Texas Legends. He's averaged 18 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 2.4 assists per game. Um, the Knicks waived Luka Samanic to sign Hunt.
Wow.
He's being signed to a two-way deal as well, I believe. I don't know a whole lot about him. He's 22 years old, young guy,
Mhm.
seems to be long and athletic. Um, the Knicks seem to make a lot of like small moves that I don't know. They just seem to make a lot of little small moves. I'm not exactly sure they amount to much though. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
We didn't get a chance to see Luca at all with the varsity squad. You know what I mean? He just kind of played down there in the G League. We heard about him a little bit, but not once did he get a chance to play up with the big boys. I
Mhm.
seems like Hunt probably won't get that chance either. You know what I mean? And I guess maybe a lot of two-way guys don't really get the chance. But what's your take on this here?
I think the Knicks are just kind of want players that kind of fit the mold of Tibbs. Athletic guys, defensive. I would hope that he's a defensive minded guy. And Luca, as much as he scored, as much as he played well in the G League, they probably didn't see him as a fit in terms of his style of play. That's the only thing I could think of because he played pretty well, from what I understand.
Yeah, and the thing with Luca is, given that he's a stretch five kind of a guy or stretch four, you know, I thought that maybe the Knicks would have had some interest in keeping him around just in case he could provide something in the future. You know what I mean? I mean, you got Cam. If you're really looking at
Mhm.
this guy saying, he could be something one day, you got Cam he was the same exact player, probably.
Right.
You know, unless it's more of we have a guy here that in the event that it doesn't work out with Cam, we don't sign him going forward,
Mhm.
et cetera, that this guy, is here waiting in the wings. I don't know. You know what I mean? The way that I see
Yeah.
it, probably come draft time, because I believe Hunt was undrafted. Come draft time, he'll probably be waived, and somebody else will probably step into his shoes.
Yeah. Now he was on another team or he was a free agent.
He was with the Texas Legends, another
And you
G
could
League
do
team.
that? You could just sign somebody off of another G League team?
I guess because they're signing him to the Knicks roster.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Right? So they're basically
Yeah.
signing him to the roster. Um, it's just he's a two-way player, being signed to the roster.
Gotcha.
So if you're
Gotcha.
signing someone to the roster, yeah, I guess you can pick him off
You
of
can do
another
that.
team,
Yeah.
because you signed
Yeah.
him to the roster. Um, so yeah, I don't know, that much about the guy, but the Knicks signed him, and here he is. He's going to be part of the team, I guess. We'll get a chance to see him play some for the remainder of, what's left in the G League, and then we'll see what happens come next season, I guess. You
Yeah.
know,
If he'll be in trading. I just don't see where we're gonna have all of these spots. Like you said, um, our draft picks as well. So it's gonna be interesting how this all shakes out.
yeah, yeah, it definitely is. In other Knicks news, Kenny Payne, he's gone. He's going to be announced as Louisville's head coach. Looks like he's going to be announced tomorrow.
Wow.
He played for Louisville, so I think they're excited for his return, and he becomes the first black head coach to be hired for Louisville on a permanent basis.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's that's big. That's big. I'm excited for him, and at the same time, a little bit sad for the Knicks. Because the Knicks are going to be missing. I think he was a good big man coach. I think he helped out Julius Randle a lot last year. Being given that he's known Julius Randle, I think that he probably helped out Mitchell Robinson, Obi Toppin, and those guys. I know before games he would do a lot of work with them. Um, After games he would do a lot of work with them. Obviously during practices and shoot arounds and things he worked on. Like he was helping Mitchell Robinson and Obi develop a jump hook. He would work on footwork with Obi and with Mitchell Robinson. You know, I think it's going to be a big loss to the team. What's your take on Louisville? I mean, Louisville, Kenny Payne leaving and going on to coach at Louisville.
I'm, I mean, congrats to him. You know, first Mike Woodson, and then him. So word's getting around in terms of what they're doing with the Knicks, probably. So congrats to him. Um, I think we're gonna be all right, son. I think we're gonna be all right. I think you know the main person running this show, in my opinion, is Tibbs. I think that they're good for development. So I think Julius will miss him, Obi will miss him, um, Mitch will miss him. Hopefully, they'll bring somebody in that those guys can connect with. But I really hope they bring in one of Tibbs' guys. You know, I just think it's important for him to have people on that staff that he's worked with in the past. And I'm not saying he didn't feel comfortable with them guys. I'm pretty sure he got comfortable with them, but to kind of bring in somebody that he's worked with in the past. But kudos to Kenny Payne, and who knows, Johnny Bryant might might be next. Wasn't he connected to Utah like a year or so ago?
Yeah, I mean
Oh,
he
I
could be
think
next.
so.
He could be next. He's the Johnny Bryant is the Knicks associate head coach, right? So I think that's part of the reason
Mhm,
why there's always the rumor or or whatever that he's next in line, behind Tibbs because
mhm.
he's the associate head coach, whatever that means. I'm not even exactly sure what an associate head coach is. It just happens to be something that in the NBA they label people associate head coaches sometimes. Not exactly sure what that
That's the
is.
money position.
Yeah, right,
That's the money position. He
right,
wasn't leaving Utah
right.
without that title and the money that goes with it.
Yeah, I guess it means that if Tom Thibodeau is sick, right, or for whatever reason Tom Thibodeau's not available, then he'll step up and he'll be the head coach in that situation. Um, Two things I want to touch on in regards to coaching. One, do you think just connections wise, right, with Leon Rose and all of his connections, World Wide West, et cetera, that they used the Knicks, and Gmo brought this up a while ago. They kind of used the Knicks as a training ground for some of these coaches, right? A coaching factory or something like that, to help out. I don't know if Kenny Payne is a CAA client or not, but
Mhm.
obviously there's the connection, with Kentucky and Calipari and all of that. Um, but do you think that that's one of the things that they did with some of these coaches? Because as soon as they got there, you started hearing about guys who could possibly either leave to be head coaches elsewhere in the NBA, in college, etc. You see Mike Woodson move on. Now Kenny Payne is moving on. And I know what happens throughout the NBA, right? But
Mhm.
I mean, do you think that's something that the Knicks or Leon Rose did? Like say, hey, I'm gonna use my connections to help some guys get some jobs in some places, and hopefully it's gonna come back to benefit me here in New York.
It's possible, Tim. Because when you think about when Tibbs was hired, none of his assistant coaches. I mean, Johnny Bryant, Kenny Payne, Mike Woodson, those weren't coaches that he had on his list. World Wide West, Leon Rose decided that those were the coaches to bring on. So it's possible, that it was about raising their profile,
Mm-hmm.
so that they would get, college jobs possible. But I don't know how that helps us because you still have to, it's not going to give us an edge in terms of drafting. Maybe it'll give us some insight, some behind the scenes insight on certain guys, in that respect. But I don't know if it helps us sign guys, you know?
Right.
And I'm
Right.
still waiting for this Leon Rose connection to work for the Knicks. So far, it hasn't. I mean,
Right.
that was the thing when he was hired.
Right. The only thing I could think of is, maybe not sign guys, but maybe it helps in terms of being able to deal with guys.
Hmm. Okay.
Deal with other teams.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, I scratch your back, you scratch my back.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Does it really work like that in the NBA? I don't know. You know what I mean? I guess
Yeah.
it can't hurt, but
Mhm.
you know, and I know it happens all over the league. Just like we always talk about. One of the reasons that we don't want Tom Thibodeau to go is because you value stability, right? Chemistry and those type of things. I value the same
Mhm.
thing with the coaching staff because the longer the coaches are there, the more they get to
Mhm.
know the ins and outs of the players. The system, the players, the organization, etc. You know what I mean? You start to
Mhm.
learn. Hey, this guy right here, he gets upset if this isn't happening or going his way. This guy gets upset. This guy gets upset. That guy gets upset. And when you learn the players in that aspect, you're able to coach better, right? You're able to make better decisions, in games, out of games, when a guy is dealing with a hard time because you understand the emotions or the personality behind that player. When you bring in a new person, it changes. You know what I'm saying? They may not know or understand, that player's personality. And now they've got to figure that out all over again. So, that is the importance of having, a staff that sticks around for a little while, but there's nothing you can do about it. Guys are gonna leave on and they got goals in their careers and things like that. So I'm happy for him. I hope he does well there, just like Mike Woodson is doing well in Indiana. I hope that we can bring in some guys, and maybe this is an opportunity for Tom Thibodeau, like you said, to bring in coaches that he's worked with, that he trusts, that understand exactly what his system is. Uh, you know, ho- and I know you said that you would like to see him bring in uh, guys that he knows and trusts. Are there specific types of coaches that you would like him to bring in? If he didn't replace Mike Woodson, I'm assuming
Mhm.
he'd probably replace Kenny Payne. What kind of coach would you like to see him bring in?
Somebody he's worked with, somebody he feels comfortable with, somebody that he's gonna listen to. You know? Um, I know some people say offensive coordinator. I mean, that's not gonna I don't think that'll hurt, but Imma put a name out there. I would like Brunson.
Right. So if the Knicks were to hire Jalen Brunson's dad to replace Kenny Payne, how would that impact the Knicks going out and trying to sign Jalen Brunson? I mean, you see it in the NBA all the time. You've seen it with Doc Rivers and Austin Rivers, right? So I don't think there'd be any kind of, I don't know what you want to call it. I don't think that there'd be any kind of repercussions to the New York Knicks if they were to go out and get Brunson. Would they say that it's tampering if the Knicks did end up signing Jalen Brunson? That's a good question. That's a good question. If they end up signing Jalen Brunson and he has his dad there, you got to deal with that entire dynamic of. But I think that you know Jalen Brunson and his dad probably, have a good relationship. It would definitely give you the inside track. You know what I mean? And I'm sure the NBA would have to really, do the investigation just to make sure that the Knicks aren't trying to pull something slick where you can give Jalen Brunson, some extra money because that money's going to his dad. You know what I mean? Et cetera, et cetera. You know, so I think the NBA would do their due diligence to make sure that those things worked out accordingly. But that's definitely an interesting. That's an interesting prospect that the Knicks go out and get Jalen Brunson, and his dad is the coach of the New York Knicks as well. Um, I would like Tom Thibodeau to find a coach that I would like him to find another former head coach in the NBA. I think that would be advantageous to Tom Thibodeau. I think that was the reasoning behind him getting Mike Woodson, right? Because he has that experience. I just think coaching staffs that have, a head coach like Tom Thibodeau and then an assistant coach who has that experience of being a former head coach in the NBA, I think it helps. You know what I mean? Because that coach can look at the game from the head coach's perspective and really give some good insight into Tom Thibodeau. You know what I mean? And of course, Tom Thibodeau is going to have respect for that coach. Not that he doesn't have respect for his assistant coaches, but he's going to have some respect for that coach because that coach has NBA head coaching experience. They probably ran in circles together. They probably participated in, certain types of, I don't want to say webinars, but, coaching clinics, and those type of things. You know what I mean? The NBA has, for each one of their components, players, coaches, et cetera, referees, they have their own little association. You got the coaches association, players association, referees association. You know what I mean? So I think it helps if you have a former head coach working with you as an assistant. You know what I mean? And I would like to see that happen with Tom Thibodeau because I think he can use that kind of expertise. You know what I mean? Steph?
The last thing I heard you say was having a former head coach be an assistant coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. And you know what? That might happen in case they get rid of Tibbs in in the middle of next season.
Right.
They'll have somebody with head coaching experience
Right.
on the bench. So yeah, I like that idea as well.
And a lot of times people say, well, you get that, a guy who's a head coach who used to be a head coach in the NBA. Now Tom Thibodeau was looking down his back. You know, I don't think that's necessarily the case, especially if Tom Thibodeau is the one who hired that head coach
Right.
or, had a lot of input on bringing that head coach to New York or that coach to New York. They wouldn't be the head coach at that time. You know, I don't see where there would be a problem. I think that would work, and I think it would help Tom Thibodeau out. But either way, he's I don't know how many the Knicks have umpteen coaches out there, so I don't even know if they want to go ahead and hire somebody else. But I do think you need, when you look at the people that's out there now, that Mike Woodson and Kenny Payne are gone. I think you need somebody there with just a little bit more stature than some of the guys that's out there. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. And because right now it's Johnny Bryant, but
Mm-hmm.
the other guy worked with him, right? What's his name? Hashimoto. Um, I
Hashimoto,
think they're
yeah,
yeah. I think he's worked with him in the past, but I'm not sure what his role is. I don't know if he has a prominent role on the team. And I don't know if he'll be moved up, as well. I don't know how they do it if they have assistant coach one, two, three, or what have you. When you get to kind of move up, not sure how that works. But I was thinking about D'Antoni. I don't see Tibbs and D'Antoni rocking like that. Like I don't see.
yeah. The thing about D'Antoni though. And Tibbs, it's like, Thibodeau's been known for his defense, right?
Right.
And having a limited offensive repertoire. Mike D'Antoni's been known for his offense and not being a good defensive coach. Maybe
Hmm.
maybe they come together as a dynamic duo. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. 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 Right.
You know, both both coaches have had trouble with bigger name stars,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I know earlier in the season, I said, maybe the Knicks should call Mike D'Antoni so that he can help Tom Thibodeau out on the offensive side. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I wouldn't be opposed to it at all. If he can come in and look at the roster. Now, I think what the Knicks would need to do, if you brought in Mike D'Antoni to help out, on the offensive side, I think that they'd have to come together. I don't know if they'd have to come together and decide on the type of players, because I don't know that they have the same idea about the type of players that should be on the basketball team.
Well, D- D'Antoni would have a fit with these players right here,
Right.
because he wants players that are smart,
Mm-hmm.
understand the game,
Mm-hmm.
that move the ball. If you listen, the problems he had with was it Mello?
Carmelo, yeah,
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 that he was,
Carmelo.
that he wasn't moving the ball. Um, that he wasn't moving the ball enough. So I think D'Antoni would have a heart attack too. Both of them would be having heart attacks for different reasons. Um, one thing about D'Antoni though
Right.
is that he would go small if he felt like that gave his team the advantage, and
Mm-hmm.
he'll give up boards and rim protection. So I don't know if that would be because Tibbs is so into his rim protection that I'm not sure how that would work. So you're right. They would really have to sit down and hash that out.
Yeah, they would, and that would be, yeah, that'd be Showtime, but not the Lakers Showtime. That might be a different kind of Showtime. You know, they really would have to sit down and talk about it and figure out,
Yeah.
looking at the roster that they have, what's the best way to get the best mix of offense and defense.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? And the Knicks
Yeah.
they just don't have the type of point guard that. Now, here's the thing though. With some of the players that's on the team, I think they could excel under Mike D'Antoni offense. You know what I mean? If they played, playing a faster style of basketball.
Hmm.
Um, but you'd gotta, but you would need you would need that point guard that can really run it for them. You would need that
Yeah.
point guard. If you don't have that point guard, I think, it'd be a mess.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
would
It would
probably
be.
be a mess if you don't have that point guard. And you'd have to give Thibodeau, if they did that, he would have to give Mike D'Antoni the power to choose which point guard he'd want to pick out the litter
Right.
to
Right.
run his, what it is that he's
Right.
trying to do.
Right.
Yeah.
But so let me ask you: Do is and you'll probably say it's a little bit of both. Is the offense that bad, or do we not have the players that run it, or we're not hitting shots? Like, what's your thought? Like, do you think Tibbs needs an offensive coordinator? Do you think it's at that point?
I think I don't think the offense is that bad. I think it comes down to, for me, the making the offensive adjustments. I don't know if Tibbs is good at making those
Right.
offensive adjustments.
Right.
When a team is playing this type of defense or that type of defense, it doesn't even seem like he makes many offensive adjustments to what the defense is doing. It's just kind of like, do what you've been doing. We have this system. We'll figure out how to attack it out of the system that we already have. Where I think Mike D'Antoni would be better at you know, people always said, Mike D'Antoni was just like this offensive genius, and he could, see something that's going on the floor, call a timeout, and say, okay, this is where we got to go. This is what we got to do. Boom, 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 boom. Draw it up
Right.
and hit the floor, and there it is. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Um, so I think that's what Tom Thibodeau is missing. Those type of quick in-game adjustments, that can happen on the fly and be effective. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and yeah,
I I think another, I don't know if you want to call it a flaw with Tibbs is his whole thing is the defense will tell you what to do. But we don't have those type of players. Like I get what he's trying to say. If they, if they double, that should tell you what to do.
right,
If they're doing this, that should tell you what to do. You
right,
should be, no matter what they do, you should be able to read it and make the proper decision. But do
right.
we have those type of players though?
And that's the thing. I don't know if we have those kind of
Yeah.
players that can just make those types of decisions on the fly,
Right. I think you
on the
like
fly.
this read and react. You need to be very structured, with this team. I just don't think we have those type of players. I think
Yeah,
RJ, is that. I think Fournier, could do that. But after that,
yeah. After that, right. I don't know.
yeah.
I mean, and the thing though with Tom Thibodeau, I think his offense is a similar style. Where you kind of read what the defense is giving you, and then you take it. And also his philosophy is to beat the offense up the floor. I mean, beat the
Mhm.
defense up the floor. Don't give the defense a chance to really get back and set up against you. I will say this. When the Knicks play fast, they look good. When they're trying to get up the floor, they look good, like against Portland last night, right? They in the first quarter, they were beating the defense up the floor and trying to get easy buckets, quick
Mhm.
buckets. They seem to be able to play when they play fast like that and they're successful. Maybe those guys would work under Mike D'Antoni offensive system. Then a Tom Thibodeau defensive system. The thing is, of course, Tom Thibodeau being the head coach, he'd have the last say on anything. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Oh, that's gonna be interesting to see, man. How that works with Tom Thibodeau hiring another coach to replace Kenny Payne. You lost two of them in 2 years. I do think that you got to hire at least one, in my opinion, and I would like it to be someone who's has a veteran presence in the NBA.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of the Knicks having having that coach be a black coach, though. You know what I mean? Because I feel
Mhm.
like you lost two, just strong black male figures in Mike Woodson and Kenny Payne, and I feel like this
Mhm.
team needs those type of coaches around. You, you know, uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
guys that coach guys that can relate to these players on an athletic level and then also a social level. You know,
Yeah.
so if you did get a Mike D'Antoni, then maybe you need to get another guy that
Mhm.
can work with the players on that level. I've always been a big proponent, especially today, with the way players come into the league young, whether white or black, but
Mhm.
with the way the
Mhm.
players come into the league young, you need to have some different types of coaches. Like if I was an NBA general manager, I wouldn't put it past bringing up high school coaches, especially 2023. You're getting
Mhm.
coaches um, come. I mean, you're going to get players coming to the league who are straight out of high school,
Right.
18, 19 years
Right.
old. You may need to have somebody who can relate to those players on a high school level.
Right.
I mean, they're taking a leap from high school to a man's world, to an adult's world. You may need to be able to have
Right.
some people who can, help them along in that manner. I've
Yeah.
been
No
a
doubt.
proponent of that, but
Yeah. I mean, it has happened though, but it's usually a rookie's high school coach would be
Mm,
hired, right,
right.
by the college team,
Right.
right? I don't know
Right.
if
Right.
I've
Right.
seen it
Right.
in the NBA, but by the college team, the high school coach um, would be hired. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree, and especially just a multicultural um, coaching staff, but young too. Because you bringing in Hubie Brown, I'm exaggerating, but these guys
Right.
with,
Right.
you know, it's a huge gap. They don't know what social media is. I'm just kidding. But it's a huge gap. So you
It is.
definitely, want some younger guys there, some, African American coaches as well. That, you know, some players it's not going to matter. They can form those bonds, whatever. But for other players, it is important for sure. And I'm not even sure who we can get in for Randall.
Mm.
I'm not sure who he has relationships with, but whoever comes in, they're gonna have which is always the case, trying to develop those relationships.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Randall might not. I mean, I actually think
Take to
him and
anybody, right?
what'd you say?
He might not take to anybody.
Might not. I actually think him and Mike Woodson maybe had a good relationship though. Yeah, I think them two might have had a good relationship. But congratulations to Kenny Payne. He's on his way to Louisville, and actually right now Indiana is playing St. Mary's. Right, so Mike Woodson is the head coach of Indiana. So the Knicks they've had some good coaches. They've had some good coaches out
Yeah.
there. But congratulations to Kenny Payne. He's on his way to Louisville. He'd be the first permanent black head coach in Louisville's history. Right. So, big shout out to him for that. And more Knicks news. Quentin Grimes looks like he's set to return, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm excited for that. This is what Quentin Grimes had to say at his press conference today.
Yeah, I felt really good. I had a really good two practices coming into today, and tomorrow I got to shoot around, see how I'm feeling again, and just I'll be ready to go.
So it sounds like he's going to be ready to go. He's been through two good practices. I think he he started practicing on Tuesday, right? So two good practices for Quentin Grimes, and it looks like he may be ready to go for tomorrow night's game. You know what I mean? If he is ready to go, Steph, do you think he steps right in and plays? Or does Deuce continue to get minutes? And then in the future, how do you think that works out?
I think he steps right in, Sim. I think Tibbs trust him.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask me, I think that McBride was pressed into duty because of injuries. I'm not saying he wouldn't have got some time. I'm not sure he would have gotten as much as, even though it's not even a lot, but I don't know if he would have even gotten this many minutes if Grimes was healthy. I think once Tibbs trusts you, once you come back, you go right in. So I definitely see Grimes going right back in the rotation. And if Fournier's minutes or Burke's minutes or someone else's minutes aren't decreased, I think McBride is going to be out the rotation.
Mm. And I'm afraid that might be true, right? But what I don't understand is why there's a slot there in the rotation, right? You can have Emmanuel Quickly, you can have Miles McBride, and then you can have Quentin Grimes playing at three. You might be kind of small, but Quentin Grimes playing at three. And then you can have Obi Toppin at the power forward spot and Jericho Sims at the center spot, right? So it seems like there's a natural hole there because Alec Burks is going to continue to start at the point guard position in the starting unit. So I don't understand why you couldn't have Quentin Grimes, playing at the three, Miles McBride playing at the one or the two, with however you want to categorize it in the second unit. I don't know. I don't know why that couldn't happen. Why do you think? I mean, obviously it would take away some of RJ's minutes. He would no longer be getting 38 to 40 minutes a
That's
game.
what I was
But that
about to say.
you know, but that may not be a bad thing.
Right.
If you can go back to, because Thibodeau had to change his rotation a little bit, right? He started doing it where, Randall would play the entire first quarter. RJ would go out with 6 minutes left in the first quarter, and then
Mm-hmm.
he'd come in at the top of the third and he'd play, most of the third quarter. And then RJ would come back Julius Randle would come back with about 6 minutes left in the second quarter. No, I said third quarter. It's 6 minutes left in the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you use Quentin Grimes at that 3 spot, you can have an entire second unit if you want to. RJ can play most of that first quarter and then come back with 6 minutes left in that second quarter. You know what I mean? And then basically have the same rotation in the second half.
Right.
So I don't know why that couldn't happen.
It could. The only thing with that, because I think that's how we used to do it, right? When we had our first team set and our second team set.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is that now with RJ's emergence, I think he's trying to give them time on the court separately, Julius and RJ, so that they have an opportunity to kind of handle the ball and kind of flourish without the other one being on the court. So I think if you go back to first team, second team, RJ's always playing with Randall, which is fine. It's just something to consider.
Yeah. And I do think that's important for RJ to have some minutes out there where he's just with the young guys and he's not with Julius Randle and Evan Fournier, right? So that he can. When he's out there with Evan Fournier and Julius Randle, so far over the past couple months, he's been the guy too, as far as scoring the basketball and doing those type of things. But if he's out there with the young guys exclusively, not only is he the main, the focal point, but he can also be the exclusive leader out there on the floor, like we seen last night with him huddling guys up, bringing guys together to talk about whatever it is that he was talking about with them. I think it's important for him to have those type of scenarios take place during the game. So yeah, it would be important for him to get out there with those guys. But I think you can still, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I guess there's a way. There's a way you can. I'm sure there's a way you can get Deuce some minutes. I am afraid he's going to go down and end up just playing 2 minutes a game or
Yeah.
something like that.
No, I think you can. Listen, RJ is going to be fine.
Right.
Whether RJ gets to play with that second unit and have his time without Randall, or whether he's playing exclusively with Randall so that we can play McBride with that second unit, he's going to be fine. He's on track, developmentally. He's going to be fine either way.
Yeah, I agree with that. So we'll see, what Tom Thibodeau decides to do when Quentin Grimes gets back. But it looks like, there's a possibility that he'll play tomorrow, or at least be available tomorrow.
Right.
Right. I can't say that he's definitely going to play, but there is an opportunity that he'll be available tomorrow. I think, during the shoot around, they're going to test him out, see how he feels. And if he feels good enough, he'll get out there and play. And if he's out there playing, Tom Thibodeau's going to assume that he's 100% healthy and throw him out there to get some burn. You know what I mean? So there it is. It's 7:45, ladies and gentlemen. In just a few minutes, the NBA report is going to be on with Ron and I think Uncle Fulio. You know what I mean? They're going to break down some things going on in the NBA, so make sure you check that out. Of course, tomorrow we'll have a pregame show. We'll have a postgame show. Steph, anything that is going on that you want to announce before we get out of here?
Well, I'll have an announcement on the Queen's Court. So definitely tune in for that. Some good things happening with the MBK fam for sure. So Queen's Court Monday, check it out. I
Yeah.
think you'll be happy. The network is growing.
Yeah,
I'll just leave it at that.
There you go. Make sure you guys check that out on Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you check it out. Big announcement coming on Monday. Tricky Nicky, you said you're calling in. Unfortunately, I am not in my studio, so I'm not able to get to the phone. The setup looks similar, but if you see behind me, you can see I'm not in the studio, so I don't have access to the phone at the moment. So I apologize for that. If I can get the phone up for the next show, I'll try, but don't count on it. I'll just say that. Don't count on it. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time. I'm about to get up out of here. One last reminder for those who joined us late. The Knicks signed Feron Hunt to a two-way deal. He's 6'8", 195 pounds, 22 years old. Last played for the Texas Legends, averaging 18 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 2.4 assists. In order to sign Feron Hunt, Feron Hunt, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his name, but in order to sign Hunt, they had to waive Luka Samanic to make room for him. Samanic, his time with the Knicks G League, he's dealt with injuries. So like we said earlier, the Knicks make a lot of small moves. They haven't always amounted to anything, or at least Leon Rose makes a lot of small moves. We'll see if they ever amount to anything. You know what I mean? Like, this guy 6'8", 195, seems like he's pretty similar to Cam Reddish. You know what I mean? So I don't know if the Knicks are using the G League to really bring in guys that they feel like are going to play on the team, or just to have bodies down there. I don't know. We'll see. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get up out of here. I appreciate your time, and be peaceful. And you know what? You've been watching highlights of Hunt for the entire video, because we got him down there below us in the box. But anyway, we're up out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.